It isn't easy for professional athletes to answer questions before and after games. For the most part, these are players who have just poured out their sweat and gave maximum effort for more than 2 hours, then have to answer questions like it's a test in school. Naturally, that leads to some very dumb quotes from professional athletes.
How would you describe your conditioning level now at this point in the season?
Great.
Now, there are two main types of dumb quotes that describe what NBA players tell the media. There are the stupid ones and the arrogant ones. Jason Kidd telling reporters, "We're going to turn this team around 360 degrees," is a stupid quote, but everyone knew what he was trying to say. LeVar Ball saying he could beat Michael Jordan in a game of one-on-one would fall into the arrogant category.
One-on-one, I'm undefeated, never lost.
Will you stop it? Don't
Never
apologize
lost
on TV.
one-on-one.
That don't make any sense.
Though we can all agree, it's stupid as well. And in this list, we're adding a third category, the "what in the world is he talking about?" These are the quotes that are just so confusing and so twisted that it takes a good 5 minutes to actually digest what's being said. This is where we find Kevin Garnett and his affinity for using food metaphors during interviews. Oftentimes these go off the rails, and it is hilarious to try to piece together what Garnett is actually trying to say. There's this classic quote about salads being a way to describe his life. "If I was a Caesar salad, the croutons would be my friends, the lettuce would be my family, and the dressing itself would be my mom, because you can have the lettuce and the croutons, and it can be called a Caesar. But until you have the dressing, and it actually tastes like a Caesar." Now, Cobb salad, that's a different story. If I was a Cobb salad, my wife is the lettuce. No, sorry. My daughter is the lettuce. My wife is the bacon strips. My friend Steve is the avocado. Cassell and Ty Lue are each a grape tomato. Tom Gugliotta is the chives and also the hard-boiled egg. All my childhood pets are the cheese, and my mom is the Caesar dressing. I ask for Caesar dressing on my Cobb salads.
You know who invented salad? Poor people.
I'm not going to get into the choice of asking for Caesar dressing on a Cobb salad, but the situation Garnett painted in this quote is just weird. It feels like he is both dissing and pumping up his mom at the same time by making her the dressing. But then this whole analogy loses me when he starts down the Cobb salad track. How did he pick which friends were each element of the salad, and why is Tom Gugliotta two different elements? Boom! Then there's this gem about playing for Doc Rivers being like coming home to a birthday cake every day. See if you can figure out what Garnett is talking about here. Coming home to a birthday cake. Every day it's something. You don't know if it's gonna be sprinkles, but you know it's gonna be sweet. You know it's gonna be beautiful. But what you don't know is, sometimes they might use too much salt in the recipe and you bite into the cake and you get a salty taste. But you have to remember that every day is a birthday cake in here waiting on you. So if you can figure that riddle out, that's what it's like to play for Doc Rivers.
And when he said that, dog, the world stopped. I said, Zeke, what you say?
Can anyone understand what Garnett is trying to say here? Is this some 5D riddle that we need robot power to figure out the solution?
What in heaven's name are you talking about?
Also, who uses more than a teaspoon or two of salt in a cake? When was the last time you ate birthday cake and complained about it being salty? My mind is frazzled by Garnett right now. Kyrie Irving also says some ridiculous things, but at the very least, the Nets guard is being clear in his intentions. I don't know if these quotes about the earth being flat belong in the stupid category or the what in the world is he talking about category, but it certainly straddles the line between the two.
People think maybe your brain collapsed or something like that.
It didn't.
It didn't?
No, I'm actually intellectually stable.
Well, I did give you, because you seem like a pretty bright guy, so I gave you this, and maybe like you can, at work, you can look at this. This is a gift for you.
We're going to ignore the many times Kyrie has doubled down on this viewpoint and stick to the original quote from the podcast with Richard Jefferson. On the podcast, Irving said, "It's right there in front of our faces. I'm telling you, it's right in front of our faces. They lie to us. What I've been taught is that the earth is round. But if you really think about it from a landscape of the way we travel, the way we move, and the fact that, can you really think of us rotating around the sun and all the planets aligned? Rotating in specific dates, being perpendicular with what's going on with these planets?" And credit to Richard Jefferson for trying to save this meltdown by asking Kyrie why he put air quotes around the word planets. But Irving was ready. He rebutted by saying, "Because everything that they send, or that they want to say they're sending, doesn't come back. There is no concrete information except for the information that they're giving us. They're particularly putting you in the direction of what to believe and what not to believe. The truth is right there, you just gotta go searching for it." The beauty of science is that you can never really definitively prove or disprove anything, so there is a very, very small chance Irving is theoretically correct. But we've seen the Earth from space. We have plenty of evidence about how the Earth rotates around the sun and on its axis. Basically, we know the Earth is not flat. Kudos to Irving for questioning everything he hears, but at some point you have to believe scientists over conspiracy theorists.
why do you think that this is so important to him to keep up with this?
I told him he's trolling us.
It wasn't just science that Kyrie was disrespecting, however. He threw some major shade at his new coach with the Nets, Steve Nash, after Nash was named the new coach in Brooklyn. In a podcast with teammate Kevin Durant and his co-host Eddie Gonzalez, Irving laid out how he thought the structure would work in Brooklyn under Nash. He said,
I don't really see us having a head coach, you know what I mean? Like, KD could be a head coach, I could be a head coach.
This one is filed under arrogance because, as you can clearly see from their start to the season, the Nets need some coaching.
I don't want to say what he's trying to say, but because it's a little confusing.
Okay,
but I think what he's trying to say is it's done by committee.
The notion that Irving or Durant could be the head coach while playing is a bit far-fetched, but that's just par for the course for Irving. It also might not have been the smartest thing to say in the immediate aftermath of your new coach being announced, let alone the practicality of what is being said. I understand there are some times when stars should take over the game, but someone needs to be the conductor of the orchestra on the sideline, and that certainly won't be Kyrie or KD. Another player who has really questioned science was Jordan Clarkson, who nearly said on a podcast that he didn't believe in dinosaurs. What he corrected himself to, though, was perhaps even more odd than if he had said he didn't believe in dinosaurs. After admitting that he was taking a left turn in his answer, Clarkson said, "I think it was bigger people in the world before us, and like the dinosaurs were their pets." Now, like a good reporter, Cavaliers teammate DJ Montage asked how big these people would be if dinosaurs were pets. And Clarkson was ready with a response. You look at a dinosaur, they gotta be 3 times bigger than them. Now, we aren't going to get into evolution in this video, but how did the small humans survive and the large people who towered over dinosaurs die out? That's my question for Clarkson. Also, do these very large human-like creatures use leashes, or was this a Flintstones kind of deal? Yeah, so many questions about the scenario that Clarkson is painting in this interview. But at the very least, he believes in dinosaurs, unlike Montage, whose known skepticism about dinosaurs and Elvis started this whole conversation. Now, we could devote a whole section of this video to Dennis Rodman and the crazy things he's said, because that dude is just wacky. But one quote of his stands out above the rest as it relates to his NBA career. He was asked once about chemistry, and his response was interesting. Chemistry is a class you take in high school or college where you figure out 2 + 2 is 10 or something. Now, I'm going to give Rodman the benefit of the doubt that he knows 2 + 2 is 4, but I'm questioning if he knows what chemists actually do. Rodman was known for being brash and could not care less about what others thought of him, but this is such a bad definition of chemistry. Like all science, chemistry has some math involved, but I don't know if chemistry is the best example of a science that uses math. No one other than Rodman could get away with this line because this joke had a chance to be much more powerful if the definition of chemistry was a little more spot on. Let's move away from the more puzzling things NBA players have said into the funny world of accidental stupidity. These are those quotes that it's clear what the player was meaning to say, but what he said in the moment has a very different meaning. The classic example of this comes from the great Charles Shackleford, who once quipped, "I can go right, I can go left, I'm amphibious." Now, I'm guessing Shackleford wasn't trying to tout his pool basketball skills, but maybe we get an aquatic version of the NBA at some point in the near future. It certainly would be interesting to see these players try to pull off the same moves in the water that they can pull off on the court. And the water should be better for the joints of these athletes, so they would have longer careers. Then there's Chuck Nevitt, who was so excited about his newest niece or nephew, he might have started to question his own gender identity. He told reporters ahead of the birth, "My sister's expecting a baby, and I don't know if I'm gonna be an uncle or an aunt." Again, it's tough to fault Nevitt for the mix-up because 99 times out of 10, he's going to say the right thing. This is that 1% of cases where he messed up, and we can all have a good laugh about it now. The same can be said for Drew Gooden after he told reporters about his hardships, telling the media, "I've had to overcome a lot of diversity." Yes, he probably meant adversity in the context of the full quote, so thankfully this was before Twitter really caught on because I can only imagine this slip in the age of social media. It was an honest mistake from Gooden that fortunately didn't set off a huge media firestorm at the time. David Thompson actually found a creative way to answer the popular interview question about your weaknesses. He said, "Ball handling and dribbling are my strongest weaknesses," reframing the question to talk about the fact that he has no weaknesses. Now, those who saw him play might disagree with his assessment, but I give Thompson a lot of credit for spinning his flaws into a positive. It's a great way to look at life. But maybe it isn't the smartest thing to say when your weaknesses are on full display as a professional athlete. Yes, part of being a professional athlete is an unquenchable desire to win and be the best. But there's a difference between being confident and arrogant. Joe Johnson crossed that line when he took a shot at the Big Three era Miami Heat. He said, "Outside of LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, we're more talented than them." While that might be true, and that is debatable when you look at those Nets teams. It's not like those two players will magically sit out every time the Heat play Brooklyn. I'll give Johnson this, the Nets could probably outscore the Heat if you subtracted James and Wade's point total, but that just isn't how it works. It's the same way Paul George can be laughed out of the building when he said, if you look at the box score, we won, after losing to Miami. What other dumb things did we forget in this list? Did you think anything we mentioned was actually a smart quote from an athlete? Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
So game 7, man. That's it. It's all the marbles. I'm sitting in the house, I'm loading up the pump, I'm loading up the Uzi, I got a couple of M16s, a couple 9s, I got a couple joints with some silencers on them. I'm just loading up clips, a couple grenades, got a missile launcher with a couple, missiles. I'm ready for war.